So, Triss, you've been playing a ton of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. You posted a bunch of videos this morning, like a full preview, a 5 things we learned video, I think a gameplay vid, plus probably more by the time this video goes up. But people still have questions about this game. Specifically, we have 25 questions pulled out from our audience that they want answers to about this game. Are you ready, Triss, to answer everything? All right.
Yep.
Here we go. At the Squire asks, does Link share any weapons with Daruk, Urbosa, and Mipha when it comes to swords, clubs, or lances? Like, could Daruk use an iron sledgehammer like Link, or Link could use the light scale trident like Mipha?
I know in Breath of the Wild, Link could use all these different weapons, but they actually broke it up for this. So the Goron series, I guess they call it the cobbler weapons or whatever they are, like the giant clubs that Daruk uses. All those Goron weapons are exclusive to Daruk. And same with the Zora spears, like the light scale trident that Mipha has. That's exclusive to her. So technically, it does, I guess, technically limit what Link can use. But Link also has the biggest variety with like all the Bokoblin weapons and Lizalfos weapons and all that. So I think the champions having exclusivity on their region's weapons is fine.
All right, great. Jan the Man asks, can armor be enhanced to multiple levels similar to the Great Fairies in Breath of the Wild? Are there still armor set bonuses? Also, are there any additional features that factor into battle gameplay other than weapon fusion and cooking/eating food for various effects?
So, to the first question, armor seems to be purely visual in this. There's no like bonus applied to armor, whether it's a full set or anything like that. There's no UI indicator, there's no reason, I guess, to have a specific outfit on, other than, I guess, for plot, maybe you don't want Link running around in his underwear.
I'm sure some people do.
But yeah, there doesn't seem to be any purpose behind using any specific outfits other than because you want to. So there's no real set bonuses, and therefore there's no way to upgrade them as far as I can tell.
Okay.
To the second question about any additional features, there doesn't seem to be, as far as I've seen, but the cooking and eating food, just there's a lot of those, and you're eventually able to cook more than just one meal, so you can start to kind of pile up the bonuses from those.
Next, GamerLoader asks, is the game easy for those who've never played a Warriors game to get into? So Triss, I know you played a fair amount of Warriors games, I believe, or at least Hyrule Warriors. What's your take on this so far?
So, I definitely think that this game pulls more from Breath of the Wild than it does Hyrule Warriors. It basically takes the combat of Breath of the Wild and makes it fast-paced. Thankfully, there's ways to really train and practice within this game. They make it very easy to jump into and get a good understanding. When they originally revealed the game, Aonuma had even said that they wanted to make this game something that Breath of the Wild fans can use to get into Warriors games, and the vice versa. Hyrule Warriors fans can use to get into Breath of the Wild. And I think that still holds true. I think it'd be fairly easy for someone to get into this game that's never played a Warriors game.
Okay, that's exciting. Like me. Endless Duelist asks, is there a way to track how many Koroks you have found in a stage? Something like an indicator saying 5 out of 7, 3 out of 6, etc. Also, are there many armor options? The first Hyrule Warriors had so many costumes, hoping that continues here. Thanks.
So, to the first one, yeah, so I went over this in the 5+ details video, but unlike the demo, when you select a story mission in Age of Calamity, specifically a mission you're revisiting, it actually shows a list of all the available Korok seeds down at the bottom as like a little icon for each one. They're grayed out if you don't have them, but if you do have them, they light up. So it's a really nice, easy, clean indicator to see if you've gotten all the Korok seeds or not. And it shows how many there are, so thankfully we don't have to go around scrambling for the 14th in the demo. There were only 13.
So you don't have to wear like a Majora's Mask or the Korok mask to find everything.
No.
Okay.
No. Thankfully, the only complexity within those seem to be that sometimes you may have to use a Sheikah rune on them, but otherwise, thankfully, they're not character exclusive, and they're pretty easy to keep track of.
Okay, great. And then the second question, in regards to armor options, if there are many, yeah.
So Link seems to get majority of the costumes that he can in Breath of the Wild. Just from what I've seen, for example, after completing Mipha's mission in Chapter 2, you get the Zora helm. So, and then I believe after completing Urbosa's is when you get like the Desert Vo outfit. So you really start getting a bunch of the familiar costumes from Breath of the Wild pretty early on, and seemingly throughout the rest of the game.
Okay. Gednick asks, the game's wonderful title screen has a camera flying around Ashika Tower along with some calm music. Are there more towers in the game, and does the title screen change depending on which tower you've been to the last time?
So, I can't say if there are more towers in the game or not, because I'm just not sure. By the time of Chapter 2, you don't really figure that out. I would assume there are, based on the fact that there's more than one tower underground in Breath of the Wild. But in regards to the title screen change, I know that the music that plays is like a softer version of the actual menu theme that plays. Mm-hmm. So if that ever changes, I assume it would change on the title screen as well, since it actually changes into the main menu theme at whatever point. It's technically, I guess, the same song, just adding more to it.
Okay. Jonathan asks, can you tell us anything regarding the compatibility with Amiibos? What the champions unlock if the game is compatible with other Zelda Amiibo, if non-Zelda ones do something, etc.? And then there's a second question, but I'll ask it after. Mm.
So, regards to Amiibo, it seems majority of the Amiibo are accessible. The champions and any Zelda character give their weapon. So the Revali Amiibo gives one of Revali's weapons. Any form of Link, I specifically scanned the Smash Series Toon Link and the Zelda Series Toon Link, give a random weapon for Link. I think one of them gave me a tree branch, and then the other one gave me the Iron Sledgehammer. Any Zelda gives Zelda's weapon with the Ancient Memory part. I did scan the Smash Series Ganondorf Amiibo, since, hey, that's a Zelda character, even though we don't know anything related to Ganondorf in this game. And I got 10 Lionel Hoof material parts. So, and then I believe I also scanned, I'm looking back at my Amiibo to refresh myself, I scanned my Ryu Amiibo because it was like the easiest one within reach out of my shelf. And I think that also just gave me some random material drops. So it's pretty similar to how it worked in the original Hyrule Warriors, where playable characters give you one of their weapons, and then non-playable characters just give you random materials. Okay.
And their second question is, in the original Hyrule Warriors, you could have a scenario where Link teams up with Ganondorf to defeat Zelda. Since Age of Calamity is more story-focused, are there any scenarios like this one, and if so, how is it handled within the storyline?
So a lot of the side quest and challenge missions are portrayed as training missions. So, for example, there's a mission that we see back at the Treehouse livestream that happened like a month ago at this point, and you find more levels like this throughout the game where they're listed as training missions, and it's basically practice for the specific weapon type, but in that case it also pits you against normally friendly allies, including like the other champions, and those are framed as training missions. Those aren't the only kind, though, but the game, I believe at the end of the demo actually told you this. I know it was somewhere between the end of Chapter 1 and during Chapter 2. The presence of the little guardian from the future, the in-game context claims it opened up portals to another world, which is where these challenged random side missions come from. In-game, it comes across as kind of weird, but when you frame it as just, look, it's a training mission. Oh no, there's Lizalfos in the Breach of Demise. Whoops, Revali, there's some monsters over there by your village, go get them. Mm-hmm. They make sense within the context of the world without needing to be otherworldly. So, yeah, basically they're for the most part training missions or some small side missions, or for some reason, another world.
Why not? Nintendo loves their other world, so... Jack Whitty asks, what's the nature of Amiibo support? Is it the same as Hyrule Warriors, 5 max per day, specific characters unlock weapons for that character, etc., or something new?
So, yeah, to build off of the earlier question about Amiibo, you can only scan 5 per day, just like before. I don't think they give anything other than the weapons or materials. I've been scanning 5 a day, and I haven't gotten anything out of the ordinary, so...
Okay. That's unfortunate, I guess. But whatever.
I was really hoping for, like Breath of the Wild, the earlier costumes of Link.
Yeah, that would be cool.
The different outfits, but haven't seen them yet. Maybe they're rare, who knows? I haven't seen them.
Where's my Switch shirt? Need my Switch shirt. The Niminator says, what are the best / worst changes you've observed on the previous Hyrule Warriors game? How did the two titles compare overall?
So that's actually a really good question, because I think one of the mindsets so many people have been going into this game with is that this is the sequel to Hyrule Warriors. But I don't actually think that really applies here. I think the biggest similarity between them outside of similar gameplay styles is the name. Because the original Hyrule Warriors was a celebration of Zelda as a series. It was very much a Warriors game with a coat of Zelda paint thrown over it, and a lot of charm that way. Whereas this game is very much, let's take Breath of the Wild and give it a Warriors format. So I think, in terms of best changes, I really like how they mixed both gameplay, where it feels like the perfect way to evolve Hyrule Warriors gameplay mechanics while also bringing in a bunch of mechanics in Breath of the Wild that make it feel true to the original Breath of the Wild, that is. Okay. But in terms of worst changes, I don't think I've really seen anything bad that I miss from the original, outside of I loved the focus meter, which was basically the magic from the original Hyrule Warriors, where you kind of enter that state and all your moves are like super fast and they instantly break shields, and then basically super powerful. I understand why it isn't here, because that kind of thing isn't in Breath of the Wild. There's no magic meter or anything like that. But I think it would have been neat to see something like that to just grant even more OP abilities. Makes
sense. Yeah, and I'm sure you'll have more about that in the review too, like your overall thoughts as to how it compares. So stay tuned for that in the near future. Ellie in the Real asks, how fast-paced is the story? Is it easy to follow from what you've played?
So from what I've played, the story is actually pretty simple to follow. They do a really good job, as we already saw from the demo too, they do a really good job mixing it up between monologue given to you by King Rome kind of narrating over like tapestry and actual cutscenes. And then there's also some like proper dialogue during the missions. For example, during Mipha's mission, you're looking for little Sidon. He's not near Zora's domain, so throughout it, Mipha keeps asking NPCs if they've seen where Sidon is. And it's definitely nice, and it definitely pushes the narrative a bit, even the little ones like that, because if you just watch the cutscenes, you might feel like you missed a little bit of something. So I kind of like the fact that it's engaged. It's not like, I don't know why this example comes to mind. It's not like Kid Icarus Uprising, where you can miss most of the plot because you're too busy playing.
Right.
It's not like that, thankfully.
But is it pretty fast-paced compared to, say, Breath of the Wild itself?
I would say so, but only because Breath of the Wild's story was so sporadically told. You really had, it was really stretched out. You really had to go to the right place just to get it. I think it's told in a much more digestible format, in my opinion, than Breath of the Wild's, because also you're getting it in the order you're meant to see it.
Good point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Geno Ice asks, would you say the content amount of the game is bigger or smaller compared to the original Hyrule Warriors or Fire Emblem Warriors?
That's a really good question because of the way this game is structured. I never finished all of the original content to Fire Emblem Warriors, so I can't say I remember enough to be able to make the comparison, but this does feel, from at least what I've seen so far, it does feel like it's building up to have on par with the original Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors, like before DLC, before big expansions. It feels like it's about on par with that content. I'll be able to say for sure during the review, but it's looking like it.
Okay. Sean asks, does the frame rate still dip? Is it noticeable like Hyrule Field, or more like Breach of Demise, or more like the Breach of Demise level?
So I believe we touched upon this a little bit in the preview discussion that we did, but majority of the time, I don't notice the frame rate dips too much. Outside of a couple times that'll happen during, say, some special moves, which are basically a cinematic animation anyway, so, oh no, while it looks like it slows down a little bit, doesn't affect your gameplay at all. And there are some slowdowns during the Divine Beast gameplay from what I saw. I didn't really experience it too much during Varuda, but Varudania, it might be because of all the lava. It definitely slowed down at times, and it left me a little confused. But it really wasn't too bad once I got past it.
Okay. That's good to hear. Yeah, I mean, I think Warriors, I think I said in the preview, like, Warriors is the kind of gameplay that almost lends itself well. I mean, not well, but, like, it better, like, if there's a game type to have slowdown in, it kind of works for Warriors. Not saying it's a good thing, just saying it's more easily overlooked in this kind of game where it's just complete chaos pretty consistently.
Yeah, thankfully, it's not something I've noticed happening frequently. So, like the question asked, it does seem to be more like the Breach of Demise level, where it's not too frequent. I do think majority of that issue was all the grass from the Hyrule Field level.
Right. Okay. Well, that's definitely encouraging. Although I think the verdict is still out in co-op, though, right? We haven't tested. Yeah. So we'll see how that holds up. Clownboy asks, which character do you like the most, or think has better gameplay, and do you know the meaning of Korok seeds? That sounds like a deep philosophical question almost. Do you know the meaning of Korok seeds?
Well, while at this point in the game I haven't unlocked the purpose behind the Korok seeds, I think it was Nintendo UK or Nintendo Europe that actually tweeted about it the other day, saying that you can use them to expand weapon inventory. So there we go. We know the purpose behind them. There.
It's just like the real game, or that Breath of the Wild.
In terms of what character I like the most or has the better gameplay, I also touched upon this during the preview discussion, but right now I'm torn between Mipha and Revali. They're both really satisfying to use, and during the demo, I thought Impa would be. Like, Impa was definitely one of the best characters in my opinion. And while I still think she is, something about the way Mipha and Revali play is just really fun, really fast, and it's really satisfying.
That's good to hear. You covered it. So, all right, moving on. Monty P. Moneybags asks, does the game demand you get a perfect A rank to get the unlockables?
So this might come as shock to some, but also as a great change to many others. There's no ranking system in this game. So when you do all the different side quests and such, it's not going to grade you how you did on like a CBA or BAS, depending on which region you're in. It's not going to grade you in that degree. It basically just comes down to, did you beat the level or not? Which I definitely think is much better for pacing and difficulty scaling. Because I remember so many times in the original Hyrule Warriors, in order to get that perfect A rank, you needed to beat the level, especially difficult levels, in under 15 minutes. And I had so many times where, due to the special animations of finishing blows, I'd finish at 15:03, and it would give me a rank down. Thankfully, that's not the case here, though.
Okay. Random Anime Gamer User 2020 asks, is there any connection with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition along with the original Wii U game and 3DS port? Example, character references. Speaking of which, I'm just adding myself, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't ask, is there any link with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition? I'm joking. Alright, so what's going on there, Triss? Anything you've noticed?
I haven't noticed anything up until this point in the preview. I haven't noticed anything that would connect to the original Hyrule Warriors in any way, shape, or form. Maybe there is later, but that's not something I know of right now.
It's so interesting how this almost seems like a spiritual successor to Hyrule Warriors while still being based around Zelda. It's a very kind of odd thing going on, but cool at the same time. Speaking of links, Positive Link asks, which of the revealed characters do you find most satisfying to use? So I think you already kind of touched on this, didn't you?
Yeah, I ended up touching upon it a little bit in the earlier question, to an earlier question, where it's a toss-up to me right now between Mipha and Revali. And I guess to elaborate a little bit there, I guess I can go into why. The fact that Revali has a different moveset based on if he's on the ground or in the air, I think is a really great way to depict his character. And just flying around the battlefields, launching arrows while not really losing any momentum is really satisfying. Whereas with Mipha, so many of her trident flips and slashes are just really fun to use, and she will literally fly across the battlefield through water, and it's really satisfying to see just how much of a crowd destroyer she can become.
Both of those sound fun, but I'm all about that flying gameplay. I want to check that out for myself. Kristen102025 asks, ooh, I do, as in having a question, what do you think of the soundtrack? Considering Breath of the Wild is a lot of ambient music, I'm curious to see what they pulled / remixed for this game.
So, I just want to say, I saw this was the very first question to come in, and it made me really happy because most people tend to overlook something like this. So I'm really happy that this was the first question to come in, because it means someone else other than me was just as excited about this aspect of it. I love the soundtrack to this game so far. I put it both in the little snippets of gameplay that we had go out earlier, as well as a preview discussion. You hear some really nice remixes from these levels with the champions, like a remix of Mipha's theme, a remix of Urbosa's theme, and they're really nice. And this game in general has some really good music, and it wasn't just what we saw in the demo. It seems to carry out throughout the rest of the game, and even from what we saw in some trailers too. So I'm looking forward to hearing all of it, and it's nice that even the ambient songs of Breath of the Wild were kind of incorporated into some of these. Like the sad nature of Mipha's theme was turned into a rather epic-sounding battle theme around Zora's Domain. That's really cool, and I am really excited to see the others, but I have not been disappointed at all yet.
Alright, glad to hear that. Fernando asks, is all the content in the game located on the main map? Meaning, that's the main menu. And is there an option to change button layout like in the original Hyrule Warriors, such as X for special attack, B attack, Y strong attack, and A dodge?
So the main map, the world map of Hyrule, does indeed seem to be the main menu. There doesn't seem to be any sort of other main menu outside of the title screen, because launching the game from the title screen takes you straight into that world map, and that world map has all the different services you use, the side mode, or like the side challenges, and then the story missions. So it seems like it's all pretty much condensed to there, and the only other menus seem to be when you actually launch those services, or if you like open the menu to view your inventory and whatnot. In terms of the option to change button layouts, I did, just before we recorded this, I took a look through the entire options menu, and there doesn't seem to be anything about changing the button layouts. And I think that makes sense in this case, because the original Hyrule Warriors had the button remapping, or the alternate version for the button mapping, because it was Warrior style versus Zelda style, whereas in this game, it stays kind of true to the Breath of the Wild style, because Breath of the Wild controls weren't really conventional Zelda controls.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, so they actually seem pretty close in this case to Breath of the Wild's.
Yeah.
So no, there's no way to change them.
Okay, I mean that's a bummer they can't change them, but it is nice that they are similar to Breath of the Wild's. So it's a little bittersweet, I suppose. The Mango Viking asks, can characters other than Link use different weapons?
So I believe this is asking like how, for example, Link's two-handed, or not two, yeah, like Link's two-handed sword, which can be like a woodcutter's axe or the iron sledgehammer, for example. Like, there's the variance of what the weapon itself can be. I think I touched upon this during the Amiibo section, but it does, yeah, every character can use multiple types of the same weapon, so no different weapon styles, but specific weapons. So like Mipha, if she doesn't want to use her light scale trident, and instead wants to use like the Zora spear or something, she can indeed use that. It's kind of like the original Hyrule Warriors, where each character had like 3 tiered weapons, but there's no real there's no real like lock behind being able to get those in this case, because I believe, from my understanding, the champions basically start with the strongest weapon because it's their signature weapon. They just get the option to use other like 2 additional other kinds that are weaker potentially, but they might have better skills.
Okay. Zin asks, what is the Meditative Temple? Is it akin to Hyrule Warriors Challenge mode, or is it just a practice mode of sorts?
So I went into this also in the 5+ details video, but the Meditative Temple, or rather Meditative Training, is very specifically a practice mode. So you don't earn experience points there, or you don't get material drops for any defeated enemies. You can stay there as long as you want, swap between characters, but it is a place where you can practice all the mechanics in the game, basically. You can practice specific combos as characters, practice your flurry rushes, perfect dodges, the shield parries, etc.
Okay, great. Drew Noble asks, is there a performance mode like in Fire Emblem Warriors?
Unfortunately, there doesn't seem to be. Unless it's just locked behind some menu I haven't found yet, and considering I've been through all the option menus and such, I'm pretty sure it isn't. There doesn't seem to be a performance mode, unfortunately. I do think there should have been. I think that would have made things a bit better, but that's okay.
Yeah, that, as I recall, that made the game 60 frames per second at the expense of a lower resolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I do think that was actually a pretty smart way to handle that, and I think it also dealt nicely with any FPS drops for Fire Emblem Warriors. So it's a shame it's not here, because I think that would have been great as an alternative.
Mm-hmm. Liam asks, How do you get armor sets? Are there shops, or do you get some outfits throughout the story, or both?
So there are shops throughout the game, but none of them have the armor sets. Those are mostly to get like materials and such. The armor sets you seem to get as rewards for different battles, not just story missions, but also like the different side quests and such. Sometimes you'll get a full armor set, it seems. Sometimes you'll get just a piece of it.
Okay. Iza asks, or Iza, is there something similar to the first game's adventure mode?
So everything seems to be kept to the world map in this game, that main world map. So basically what that means is you have your story missions, you have your side missions and challenges. And the side missions and challenges are what you would normally see from the adventure map in the original Hyrule Warriors. So that's also on this map now. So I don't think there does not seem to be a separate mode. Maybe something unlocks upon beating the story. I don't think so based on the way this is structured. But right now from my time with it, I can say there does not seem to be an adventure mode like the first game. Everything's condensed to the main map, but it's spiritually here in the form of the side quests and challenges. They're just all displayed in one area.
Gotcha. Gobble Gobble, our final question asks, is Cowboy Ganon in it?
Sadly, Gobble Gobble, I must say, Cowboy Ganon is not in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, but they will always live on here in this video.
I can't believe that someone named Gobble Gobble would ask such a serious question. All right, everyone, that is our 25 plus questions for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. Hopefully they answered anything you were wondering about, and if not, sorry. Otherwise, we'll have more videos on the game coming up soon, including the full review, I'm sure. Tris, is there anything else about this game you want to share with our audience that you haven't yet across your billion videos you've made so far?
Just the fact that I'm loving this game so far, and I really look forward to taking like a really in-depth look at it for the review when that eventually comes up. So definitely look forward to that, because I plan to really give that my all for this game. It deserves that attention.
Just to be clear, that is not an official loving it at this point.
No,
so
no,
just to be clear,
that's not a review score. Loved it. That's I'm very much enjoying my time making all the content for this.
All right, everyone. With that, thank you for watching. Make sure to click the subscribe button for even more on Age of Calamity very soon, I'm sure, and everything else Nintendo as well. We'll catch you later. Bye, everyone.